Sputnik, where we bring you news, politics, and culture without the red and blue treatment. My name is Jamarl Thomas. I'm here with Bob Schelhuber, my co-host. We've been discussing the historical lead up to this particular moment in time. If you guys are digging what we are putting down, smash that like button and give us a share, meaning share this video. You can also join the convo with your chats, tweets, or calls, 202-521-1320. That is 202-521-1320. So, yesterday, the gods of economics, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin descended from Mount Olympus to publicly account for the $2.2 trillion Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Now, both testified by video conference before Senate Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs Committee, taking insult and abuse for basically being criminally incompetent. A recent report by the Congressional Oversight Committee noted that nearly none of the $500 billion in the Federal Reserve's lending program has been lent. Again, it's a lending program. The point of it is to be lent. The CARES Act, on the other hand, has released funding at a crawl, with larger companies taking advantage at the expense of smaller businesses. Now, the Labor Department reported another 1.5 million people have lost their job this week. With more than 40 million people out of work, 110,000 people dead, and nearly 17% unemployment, and an avalanche, apocalyptic amount of evictions around the corner, the gods of economics seem entirely and utterly incapable to do anything but watch. The Fed Chair Powell proclaiming the pain will last until the 21st, meaning 2021. Now, they have made the point of saying we may need to give a little bit more aid. Fair enough. But ultimately, the pain, the anguish that's there, they're not expecting to go anywhere for at least a year, if not more. To get to the bottom of the criticism, we're joined by one Steve Grumbine, the founder of the nonprofit Real Progressives and host of the podcast Macro and Cheese. Steve, welcome back to the show.
Hey, welcome, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. It's always good to have you. So you tell us what went wrong in the $2.2 trillion that was supposed to be lent out to the public, and what went right?
First things first, the only reason why this went through was because the Democrats touted that they were going to provide major oversight to ensure that this was going to be creme de la creme, that they were going to make sure that this money made it to the right people, that it was going to be distributed in such a way that it was really going to be for the people. Well, 76 days in, they're still in their chair. And anybody that didn't understand that Mitch McConnell had no intention of really providing any oversight is crazy. So this money is sitting there. It's criminally negligent. No money has really been spent out. And to your point, all the stuff that you said, people are going to be losing their homes. They're going to be foreclosed on instantly. All sorts of negative stuff is going to be happening. And to further piggyback on what you said about Powell actually has been the one bright spot in this whole thing, ironically. The Federal Reserve, which is black icons, he's out there saying, without fiscal base, without fiscal stimulus, without Congress actually spending money, this thing is going to be really brutal, and that 1 year is optimistic. It could be even longer than that, because they're trying to solve all these problems, monetary policy, which can only add debt to the economy. Real deal is, even Powell knows, without fiscal spending here, this is going to be a failure of epic proportion. It already is. And the lack of oversight is really what's driving this thing to be such an embarrassment on the country.
So did anything go right with this? I mean, we're looking at 40 million people out of a job. And I imagine that the criticism is probably going to look at outcomes more than anything else. It's like, look, we gave you $6 trillion. If you're talking about some of the loans and whatnot, why do we have 40 million people out of a job? Like, is that basically where the criticism is coming in? Your outcome was not commensurate with the amount of money that we dumped into it.
So you look at it, it's June 11th right now. Right. So right now is our window. It's the time where you look back and you say, as of right now, I can't think of anything that went right with this bill. Nothing went right with it. They're bailing out penny investors. They're they're buying out these junk bonds. They're trying to buy up debt that would otherwise destroy the economy as well. On the back end, the flip side is that they're not actually getting this money out. And then thing is that the few loans that have made it out, there weren't any strings to it to ensure labor was taken care of, that the people maintained their jobs or anything. So there's so many things. There was no oversight here. This is a complete failure, complete breakdown of government. And one could easily say that the Democrats are purposely screwing this up in a partisan ploy to try and make Trump look even worse than he does, to say, see, even his landmark legislation, the CARES Act, was a failure. Again, I look at this as a bipartisan screw job, as it always is. A bunch of political posturing, and literally nobody's received an ounce of help here. None.
Well, I guess I don't want to negate your point, but obviously some people have received some help, some big corporations, some people still have their jobs in the United States. And it's always kind of, for me, I think we just forget that there's a lot of white wealth in this country that can insulate and protect itself against dramatic economic downturns like we're seeing. Obviously, we've never seen anything to this degree. Obviously, it's just hurting people across the board. And there's going to be continued ripple effects, but there are still people with savings. There are still people with aunts and uncles and family members and large real estate properties that they still own. There are people that still own stock market, as much as like the Dow is fluctuating and the S&P goes up and down on the whims of the news every day. There's still wealth there. So Steve, how do we break through and how do we challenge those who are still able to maintain wealth despite the rest of the world around them collapsing?
I think the issue is not so much focusing on the people that are maintaining wealth, so much as ensuring the people that are losing wealth are made whole. And I think that we speak oftentimes far more on the punitive side of things than on the making people whole side. You made the great point that some people have maintained their jobs. I mean, the airline industry was able to negotiate a great thing to keep them going, because pilots and attendants and other mechanics and so forth, they can't be out of a job because I'm certified to keep them certified flying, they've got to stay in place. So there was a lot of necessity to keep them whole. So in that sense, the airline industry was made whole. The rest of this, quite frankly, is 100% not helping the people. I think we need to spend on the people. I think we had it right with the $1,200, except instead of $1,200, it should be more like $8,000. We talked last time about eliminating the debt of mortgages and putting mortgage debts on hold, not forbearance, writing off debt, et cetera. I think a lot of the problem is not people with wealth, the people without wealth. We need to focus on them and less focus on the people that somehow or another got through this.
Unfortunately,
I really believe that.
Unfortunately, Steve, Democrats, a report came out, I think it was like yesterday or day before yesterday, Blue Dog Democrats and regular Democrats are concerned with the debt. They're concerned with the debt. In straightforward, basic terms, their issue is now they need to do something about Social Security and Medicare. They literally said that. Now, what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that thinking? Because Republicans are going to say, oh, God, the debt is monstrous and the world is going to fall apart and income tax rates, those are going to go through the roof. We're going to lose our money. The world is going to fall off its axis. Now, you're saying that, look, you need to not overly focus on the debt. You need to focus on the human beings. That's the part you need to focus on. Now, why are they wrong and why are you right? The interest rates aren't necessarily, meaning they always make this argument that if you go this long, you're going to have inflation. I'm sorry, not interest rates, inflation. That inflation is going to become monstrous and everything is going to just fall apart and all of these countries are going to become punitive and they're going to why is that wrong? Why are you right when you say, look, the issue is not the debt. The issue more so is that you have a lot of people who are impoverished.
So first things first, what is the debt? Debt is every single untaxed dollar in existence today, period. This won't change. This answer, if you have me on next time, it'll be the same answer every single time. All the debt is the sum total of every untaxed dollar in the economy today. Whether it be in treasuries, whether it be in cash savings, whether it be just in people's pockets, wherever it is, that money is being spent right now. That every penny that is not taxed back is debt. So that is what makes up the national debt. So when you talk about blowing up the debt, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with the government spending money into the economy, more money into the economy. In other words, to pay down the debt, you have to delete money from the economy. Well, by deleting money from the economy, what you do is it's like asking a person to run a marathon by stealing their oxygen from them. And so by taking money out of the economy, what you're doing is starving the economy of real fuel, going the lubricant that makes it flow. So that's number one. Number two is, all this is always used as a baseball bat against the poor. This concept of debt is always used as a way of disciplining companies, disciplining our spending habits, etc. And so by cutting off money from the federal government, what we do is we push people to private debt. This fattens Wall Street once again, and it perpetuates the cycle from soup to nuts. And that's what you're dealing with here.
Steve, I'm curious, just where I guess always just think you got to get a step ahead of the greed and the evil, Jamarl. I mean, Steve, what's the next place that they steal from? Where else is there to tap?
Just consider this. Any public service that our federal government provides is an area by which privatization can come in and gobble up and eat into. And they can stop funding. I mean, look at this. Our education system keeps getting more instead of paying money into the school systems to get them robust, which would help the economy hugely, we instead are pushing it out there to charter schools, private funded schools where they can make a profit off education. These are things, these are strategies that continue, and that's why they're starving. That's why Mitch McConnell's are saying states should go bankrupt. That's why they're telling companies to go bankrupt, because they take out private debt. Wall Street wins. This is more interest that they get to earn from, they get to extract wealth from the economy. They get to extract wealth from regular people. Every time somebody has to take out a loan versus the public spending it into existence, they're literally extracting wealth, extracting value from every person's labor, from every person's assets, their generational wealth, you name it.
Yeah, Steve, we have about 30 seconds left, Steve. I just want to make sure you plug anything and how people can find more of your work online.
Yeah, sure. Just come catch us on our podcast, www.macro.com. Of course, we're Real Progressives on Facebook and Real Progress in Action. You can find us on YouTube as well.
Really appreciate it.